my name's Audrana. Nobody ever really says it right, but one grandmom's name is Audra and the other one's name is Anna, and they put it together, so it's actually Audrana.
Okay.
And on the YouTube, how it says Auddie, I definitely did that too, you know, to shorten it so people could say my name right, because no one ever says it right.
And how old are you?
33 years old.
What do you prefer that people call you?
Odd.
Odd? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, my family's like Odd or Auddie.
Okay.
Or if you can say Audrana, you can call me that too.
I'll stick to Odd.
Okay.
So, 33 you said?
33 years old.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in the Philadelphia, Delaware County area, actually at Media Riddle Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
So, you know, I grew up mainly in the Delco area, and, you know, it was nice growing up there at one point. I really enjoyed it. I had a wonderful childhood growing up. Never, you know, I was never sexually abused, mentally abused, nothing like that. And my parents gave me everything growing up. Like,
okay. 2-parent home?
Yes, they're still together to this day. And, you know, that was actually a huge problem. And when I get into this story to tell you guys, my parents, from my actions and my doings, I turned them into complete enablers. Like, even to this day, with me not being high and going out, like, my mom was the one that would take me to cop my drugs, believe it or not. Like, we all trick and do stuff in our own way.
Absolutely.
But when I tell you, it weighs so heavy on my heart that I remember there was a time, me and my mom, I went to West Philly to get my drugs, and here she sees one of her CNAs. My mom's a nurse of 50 years, 67 years old, a nurse of 50 years, and I'll never forget that, because she was like so embarrassed, you know. Like, I'm bringing my daughter down here to cop drugs, and there's somebody she works with. Like, so, you know, and then, like, I was talking to her earlier today, and I said, Mom, you know, I was telling her about the interview and everything. I said, what was the biggest experience throughout my addiction that affected you? And this is a true story, what I'm about to say. My first rehab that I ever went to, I was like sick for 2 days, and I didn't do anything, and I was trying to get into rehab. The woman that me and my mom did the admission with or whatever, she told us, if she doesn't have drugs in her system, we're not going to be able to have her in. So here, of course, the person I was and the addicts back then, I had my mom drive me down, you know, as usual, get my drugs, and for the first time shot up in the back seat with her in front of me. And she never forgets that. That's all she, you know, talks about, is that hurt her so bad, you know. And I honestly think my mom spent probably almost $1 million with enabling me.
Wow.
Yes, I grew up, let me just say this, I grew up wealthy, very wealthy, and my parents are not wealthy anymore. And, you know, they tried to give me anything and everything. Neither one of my parents have done drugs or alcohol, neither one of them.
When you were in school, how was your schooling? Like, did you graduate from high school?
No, I did not graduate from high school. And, you know, I wanted to tell you something too, as we're talking about this. I remember you had a video at one time, and you were saying how Major cares about his friends so much at that age.
Yeah.
And when my drug addiction started, I was 13 years old, and my best friend in the world, who I thought was my best friend, is the first person that shot me up.
Wow.
You know.
At what age?
13 years old.
Now, what led to you even experiencing or experimenting with drugs?
Well, that's what I think about bringing up the point with Major. I just wanted to do anything and be anything with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, and this girl still to this day actually gets high. You know, she's manipulated other young girls. I've already heard stories. She brought me to North Philly at one time. I'll never forget it. And this lady came up in a car, and she saw me sitting on the steps, because the girl that I was with chose to go around and get, you know, copper drugs. And this lady's like, you know, guys take girls into that abandoned house right there and rape them. And believe it or not, she actually gave me a ride home all the way to Delaware County, because the girl I was with left me. So
So do you feel it was like peer pressure? almost like just fitting in and also
Yes.
experimenting?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you right now, I have been so insecure about my weight for the longest time. Now, today, after overcoming all the anxiety and insecurities, I'm bigger than I've ever been before, and I'm happy. My mom says stupid shit to me like, oh, you have such a pretty face, you need to lose weight. I am happy the way I look now, and that's never going to change.
That's awesome.
And
what do you think that comes from? You being happy right now, where do you think that comes from?
God.
Awesome. Okay, because that's a huge thing. Once we get happy in life and not content, because there's a huge difference between being content and being happy. I think once we get happy in life, you know, the sky's the limit. We can do whatever, because we start to have so much faith in ourselves.
Absolutely. And you know, I was in a very bad car accident. I know I had mentioned that to you and sent you the pictures, and I show people those pictures, and they're like, there's no way you're up and walking right now. Like, how is that possible? Yeah,
and the car accident, the pictures I got, I'm going to put in the video.
Okay.
So I'll be showing them right now. Explain to us about the car accident. Walk me through right before then, and then...
Believe it or not, this is something that is really actually, what's the word? Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. Like, very therapeutic for me right now to share this story. That's the word I was looking for. Because I had to come clean about this story. I lied to people. I didn't want to admit that it was my fault in the accident. And what had taken place was, I was with a guy, the same guy. Well, here, I'll start here. My husband had passed away. And
how did he pass away?
In a motorcycle accident.
Okay.
And I was so depressed. It was a horrible experience. Like, I went to his funeral, and they didn't even let me stand in the front of the funeral. His ex-wife and his family stood in front of the funeral, and my mom just felt so bad for me because we were still married. You know what I mean? You don't do that kind of thing. And after that point, I went to the races with my addiction. That's where it became even worse. And getting back to the guy in the car accident, is what happened was, when you're unhappy with yourself, that's the type of people you attract. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And I met this guy, and I moved up here from Philly to Harrisburg to be with him. And at that point, it was so bad. It was horrible. Like, we were getting high, like all this stuff. My mom moved me down to the shore. I convinced my mom to bring this guy with me, believe it or not, and she did. She saw the manipulation, the fighting, the physical abuse that went on, everything. She told him he had to go, so he left. At that point, I just have all this sadness, depression, upset, like, between my husband, between what's going on with the guy that left, all that. I ate a whole handful of Xanax, got in my car, and that was the last thing I remember. They medevaced me in a helicopter. I have 2 bilateral hip implants, a shattered pelvis, multiple fractures. I don't know if you want me to stand up. At some point, I'll stand up and show you guys. I walk a little bit with a limp, but if you look at those pictures and you're not a believer, I don't know how much more I could convince someone that God literally lifted me up out of that car. And you know, God has a plan for me. I know he does. He has a plan for each and every one of us. And I strongly, truly believe that. And, you know, I got news for you. He's coming soon. Like, the world is the way it is, and I truly believe that God's going to come soon. You know, I can't force or press religion on anyone, but at the same time, if, you know, someone was wanting to get closer to God and accept him into their heart, of course I would help them and convince them to do that. Because since I've done it and accepted God in my heart, just like Frank said, my life has just got better and better and better. So many blessings. So many blessings.
So what happened in the accident? Did you hit something? What exactly happened?
I basically hit a tree. And all the pictures that you guys will see, the car was just ramming into the tree over and over and over again, like the wheels and stuff. And that's what caused the car to look like that and be like that. They had to use the jaws of life to get me out of the vehicle. Like I said, I don't remember any of it. Like, I just remember waking up in the hospital and crying when I woke up and looked over at my mom and said, Mom, what happened? And, you know, that I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is how much of a believer I am as well. All that stuff that I told you with the guy that I met and all the, you know, crazy stuff we were doing, God saw. Because I used to search for this guy. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd be walking the streets of Harrisburg to find him. I was obsessed with this guy. All of my depression, anxiety went right towards that relationship and caused that relationship to be like that. So anyway, I believe that God truly intervened. So he said, no, your ass is not going anywhere anymore. And that's why that car accident happened.
I always say, like, God he'll get our attention with little things, and we don't live. And if we don't listen to him, he'll sit us down. You know what I mean? We'll put us in the penitentiary, something medical. You know, different situations will happen. He'll try to get our attention. We don't listen, and then he'll sit us down.
Absolutely. You know? And I just want to say, like, when we started this interview, you can see, like, I'm like shaking. I'm so nervous. Just like your aura and being around me is calming me down.
Oh, well, good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm like, glad. I don't know, this might sound weird to you, but I have ESP. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do a little bit. Extrasensory perception.
Yes, extrasensory perception. And honestly, I think you might have that too, because it's what you do is you get feelings before things happen.
Yeah.
And you almost get like signs, like, and it, you know, your gut feeling is what you should go with, because that ESP is trying to tell you, like, get away from that. You know what I mean?
I definitely think, like, Rachel is like that a lot. She gets those feelings, and they're pretty on point. You know, they're pretty on point when she gets those feelings.
Yeah, well, that actually reminds me of something that happened last year, and I know I shared with you about my brother. The first time I contacted you, I was like, listen, can you help me? My brother's on meth. He's lost. We don't know where he is. Well, thank God he's okay now. He's in a halfway house, and he's doing good, but I'll never forget this. And this is how strong the ESP and the Lord is that brought me to what I'm about to tell you. Me and my mom were down the shore at this point. My dad was still up in Pennsylvania in Philly. My brother came clean to me at that point and told me he was using, he was getting high, and he wanted to get away from it. And he said, I'll come down the shore for the weekend. I had been on the phone with him, talked to him, and then all of a sudden he's not answering his phone. I called my dad because I just got this overwhelming feeling that something bad happened. Thank God my father had a key to the apartment. And at this point, my dad's like, you're crazy. He's fine. I don't believe any of this. Like, he goes to my brother's, opens the door, and finds my brother in the bathtub, blood from his head, overdosed, naked. And this is a 72-year-old man that's never done drugs in his entire life. And he has to see his firstborn son, you know, overdosed. They used 3 Narcan, and he finally came back. Since then, he's overdosed probably like 15 times. And for
is he older than you?
No, he's younger. We're 16 months apart.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, and he's my favorite brother. I love him with all my heart, but, you know, he's really got to start doing him and, you know, working on himself, because if not, he's going to go back to using again. And like me, I never overdosed throughout my addiction. Never, not once did I overdose. So, you know, that's hard for my parents to see. He overdosed another time, and my brother had to find him in the bathroom. Like, it's just, you know, it's hard. It's really hard, so.
Yeah, definitely. And after the accident, what type of, like, how long was your rehab, all that type of stuff? How long were you in the hospital?
Yeah, whether you believe this or not, actually, this is crazy. The last time I was in the hospital was like 3 months ago, because what happened was when they put my right hip implant in, my mom said they basically put me back together like Humpty Dumpty, okay? So here, the hip kept getting infected. It had MRSA, it had strep, like that you get in your throat, constantly getting infected. 3 months ago was actually the very last time, like, all the hospital stuff is done with, you know what I mean? And I was in there, in and out of the hospital for about a year and a half because the hip kept getting infected.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to touch it. All they want to do is wash the hip out and send me back home.
Gotcha.
I was on, PIC line, antibiotics. Nurses were coming in twice a day, and thankfully they cleaned up the infection because I could have died if I got sepsis. So.
And how long were you in the hospital after that accident?
About 6 months between that and rehab, going to Bryn Mawr rehab. Yep.
Now, what was that like being in that hospital? Having to literally rely on, your doctors, family, and stuff like that to do anything for you. What was that like?
It was hard. It was really hard because it's bad enough that I've been so dependent on my mom for so many years. Like, this is the first time in my life that I'm actually doing everything for me, having my own money, working, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But being in that car accident and knowing that I could not have control over anything while being in the hospital, and I hurt my family so much. Mm-hmm. That's what I think, to me, was the worst part about it. I didn't care about the injuries. I was so thankful and grateful that I could walk again and that the doctor said I could, recover. But the pain that I caused my family, they just were so upset about that accident. I think that's what made it even harder, sitting in that hospital bed and thinking about everything that happened. You know what I mean?
Did it make you look at life differently when you...
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where, after that accident, I began to, get back on the methadone. Even the doctor said, look, you're probably going to be on methadone the rest of your life, in all honesty, because you're not going to be able to walk without it. And they were like, would you rather be prescribed Percocet, Vicodin? No, of course I'm going to take the methadone, especially being in recovery as an addict.
Yep.
So, like I said, I actually have it under a doctor's prescription, and it does help me. I don't get high off of it. And let me tell you something else too. This is just me personally sharing this. A lot of people say that marijuana is the gateway drug. I didn't start smoking weed until 33 years old, when I got my medical marijuana license. And, a lot of people might not agree with that. When I tell you the spasms I get in my body, I take a puff of the medical marijuana and it calms me down so bad. I didn't smoke before this interview. That's why I'm like this. But when I tell you, it has worked wonders for pain, everything. So, and I truly believe that you could use that medical marijuana to get off of opiates.
Yeah, I agree also. I agree also. I'm a big proponent and advocate for those that, that used correctly.
Yeah,
that it can definitely help you to get off. I always tell my story of how, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I had night terrors for years and years, and would take different medication to go to sleep. And because of the medical marijuana, I was able to stop taking my medication. My night terrors dramatically decreased.
That's awesome.
It's been, and I was the person that you couldn't pay me to smoke weed. I didn't like it.
I was not me either.
Yeah.
I used to smoke weed a couple times in high school, and it would just bug me out.
Yeah, same.
I would get so, anxiety. But now it's totally different. It really is, and it's helped me so much. So at the end of the day, listen, I'm going to say something. I don't even count my clean time. I really don't. I just live every day, one day at a time. And there's a lot of people that are not going to like this and think that, oh, she's on methadone, she smokes medical marijuana. Let me tell you something. I was absolutely insane when I was an addict. Craziness. And if it keeps a needle out of my arm every day, I'm working what I need to do. And, that's for nobody else but me. I'm not going to judge anyone else on their situation and what they do to get clean. So, I don't think it's right to judge mine. But
100%. I always say, whatever keeps us from putting a needle in our arm, a pipe in our mouth, whatever it might be. Some people get clean for their kids and then throw their life into being a mother. Some people get clean for religion and then throw their life into God. And some people do it to work and throw their life into work. So for me, there's no wrong way to get clean. Whatever it does, or whatever it takes, that's what it takes.
For sure. And I just want to let you know, I almost feel like God brought me to your channel on the YouTube, because so many of your interviews have helped me. Like, I've literally sat in my room up to like 3 o'clock in the morning and watched all your videos. And, you know, you're just straight up person. You keep it 100 all the time. And I can just tell you have such a good heart. You have a heart of gold. So
thank you. I try, and it comes, I think, from having so many years of not having that type of heart, being the complete opposite. That now it's like, you know, I want to be as far away from the old me that I can be, but always keeping that reminder.
Absolutely.
You know, for like a reality check and a sense of humility, I guess.
Absolutely.
What were some of the low times during your addiction?
I just remember every single day my mom picking me up to go cop my drugs. Like, it was horrible. Every single day she was giving me money to get high. And, you know, I think the car accident was really the lowest point, because I went into that wanting to die. Yeah. And I said, you know, fuck it. I'm going to get in my car. And you know what's crazy? They told me I had 116 milligrams of Xanax. That's what they said. That's in pot, like, you know what I mean? So I know I had a lot of Xannies in my system. But you know what? God let me survive. Again, look at those pictures. If you don't believe in God, you should, because he saved my life and brought me to this point that I never want to go back to doing drugs ever again.